This is a great read, folks. Books published by Threshold Editions. That's a division of Simon and Schuster. I mean, Ben's got the goods here. So I listened to what you're saying, and I want to know if that's the case, if in essence Obama and his people didn't just win the election, they won the cultural battle, the media battle. They won it going away. How do you fight back? Do you fight fire with fire, thugism with thugism, and if not, what do we do?
Well, you punch back twice as hard. And that doesn't mean you fight thugism with thugism, but the only way to stop a bully is to punch a bully in the face. And the way to do that doesn't mean we have to be rude. It doesn't mean we have to be nasty. What it does mean is that we have to speak fact. And that's not policy fact. That means about their character. It makes you a bad person to claim that somebody is racist when they are not racist. It makes you a bad, morally deficient human being to claim that somebody is a sexist when they are not a sexist. And that is what we should be saying to the left. Now, it actually works. If you try this tactic on the left, it works. It takes the bat out of their hands. I don't know if you guys saw the interview that I did with Piers Morgan on gun control, but it made the rounds because I started off the interview by saying to Piers that he was a bully who stands on the graves of the kids of Sandy Hook to push his political agenda by implying that the rest of us are morally deficient. And he didn't know how to come back from that because that was his entire argument. Once you take the bat out of their hands, once you say, look, you're a bully, we understand who you are, we know what your tactics are, they can't use the tactics anymore. Their tactics become irrelevant. And that is really that's what our job is in all of this. Our job in all of this is to focus. Everything the left does is a magic trick. It's all sleight of hand. They don't have any real policy answers. The only way they can convince the American people that their agenda is correct is with trickery. It's by saying that we're, class warriors who only like the rich people and hate the poor. Our job in this magic show is to sit in the back and call out the tricks as they occur. And once that happens, it's not a magic show for anybody. Everybody can see through them. Once you start seeing that the only thing the left has on its side is not only just emotion, but demonization of their opposition as bad people, once you see that, it's impossible to unsee. And that's why, and it's a tactic that works. It's why after I said that to Piers, for example, he was forced to then have a gun control conversation that he could not control. He had no clue how to argue it.
We're talking to Ben Shapiro, Shapiro. Ben is author of the book Bullies, How the Left's Culture of Fear and Intimidation Silences America. I'm Tim Wildman with Ray Pritchard. Ben, there was another example of this recently. You probably read about it, but, the pastor there in Atlanta, Louis Giglio of the Passion Church, was invited by the White House to pray at the inauguration, the benediction. And basically it was because he was known to the White House because of his work on human trafficking, to try to do something to stop human trafficking. And he is an evangelical, which was shocking that he would even be invited in the first place. But when it was learned that he had preached a sermon back in the 90s about homosexuality being a sinful behavior, according to the Bible, he was canned that next day. He withdrew formally, but we all know what happened here. The White House told him, you can either withdraw your name or we will dismiss you from the program, one or the other.
Your signature or your brains are going to to be on that piece of paper. That was the offer.
Exactly. So there you have it. He didn't. You couldn't be. The irony of that is, I noted this after it happened. So the irony of it, if you hold to that standard, that is, you can't even. You're not even a legitimate human being. If you don't subscribe to homosexual marriage, for instance, as being something good, wonderful, and positive, that guess who would have been disinvited if the inauguration had been held a year ago? The person that would have been disinvited would have been Barack Obama. Because he held the same view.
You see it with the left all the time, and their pressure, this is what's really shocking and frightening to live in the country right now. The pressure exerted by the government, led by Obama, against private citizens is unbelievable. Look at what they're doing to the Boy Scouts right now, trying to leverage the Boy Scouts into allowing gay scoutmasters. That has nothing to do with the government. What business is it of Barack Obama's whether the Boy Scouts have gay scoutmasters? It isn't. It has nothing to do with him. What business is it of Barack Obama's whether a Catholic institution decides that they don't want to cover the contraceptive use of their employees?
Or abortifacients. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, what does any of this have to do with the government? But according to the government, it is their business. They're allowed to leverage their values down Americans' throat. Why? Because we're bad people, because we have bad intentions, and it's the job of the government to stop bad things. This is budding tyranny. Tyranny is all about when the government takes away your rights, and they always do it in the name of the good. There has never been a government in the history of humanity that has taken away somebody's rights and said, we're doing it for bad reasons. We're doing it for nefarious reasons. Even the Nazis thought that they were doing something for good reasons. And just because they're wrong doesn't mean that their intentions weren't in their own perspective good. The problem is that intentions do not protect rights. What protects rights is a system of government that separates private and public, a system of government that does not allow the government to ram its perspective down the throats of private institutions. And the more of this we see in this country, the scarier it gets.
Ben, I know you know this, but I think about half the country basically sort of understands what's going on here. And as you articulate in your book in great detail, I think Obama won 51 to 49%. Wasn't that the end result?
I think it was 52-48, yeah.
52-48. So a little under half the country, understands what you've described here, basically what's going on. But now, do you still think America used to be described up until the last election really as a center-right country? Do you still think we fall into that category, or do you think it's more centrist, more center-left? What's going on?
I think we're still a center-right country. I don't think the country has changed. I think their perception of right-wingers has changed, and that's the result of the media constant assault on conservatives, making them appear to be bad people. Because if you don't tell somebody you're a conservative, you just espouse conservative positions, people will embrace them. People don't like high taxes, for example. People don't like more government regulation. People are not for a bankrupt government. People aren't for invasions of privacy in your private life or infringements on religious freedom. They're not for any of these things. It's just that they've been convinced by the media that the people who espouse those positions are bad people. Right? John McCain, bad guy. Mitt Romney, bad guy. Sarah Palin, horrible person. That is the perspective that the media has been pushing. And the media, who are the greatest thugs of all, because they pretend to be objective while doing this, at least, Lawrence O'Donnell and Chris Matthews and Al Sharpton and that whole ridiculous crew, at least you know where they stand. George Stephanopoulos is a hack, and he pretends that he's an objective journalist. That group of people has made it their sole mission in life to make us appear as though we are evil, as though there's something wrong with us. And that's why you see, for example, on the immigration debate, there's been a wide consensus in this country for 20 years on what has to be done about immigration. Shut the border, deal with the people who are here. Everybody sort of understands that, both sides of the aisle. We all know that. And yet, when it comes to immigration, suddenly it's the Republicans' job to explain why they're not a bunch of racists. Even as Barack Obama is completely overthrowing the general consensus. He's saying, no border security, let's just give amnesty. Even while he's doing that, instead of him being forced to defend that position, Republicans are being forced to defend against charges of why do you hate Hispanic people? And Republicans have no clue how to counter this. Instead of sitting there and saying, look, the fact is that you are the people who are the real racists for watering down the term racism to apply to positions with which you disagree. There's nothing racist about my position. Not only is there nothing racist, we're not the ones who are calling racism every time we see something that we don't like. That instead of responding that way, we immediately go to, you know what, you're right, we don't want to appear racist. Let's try and come to an agreement on immigration that more favors your position. Change our position to avoid the slurs, we lose. And we see it every single election cycle, with the exception of 2010. Every election cycle, we say to the left, you know what, we want to appear reasonable, so we'll change our positions. And the left says, you know what, we want you to appear unreasonable, so we're not going to change our own positions, we're just going to call you unreasonable. The logic is impeccable for the left. Why should they ever compromise? Why should they ever have policy discussions when they can call us racist, especially because there are no consequences to doing it? They call us a racist, and instead of us saying, you're really disgusting, instead of us saying that, we respond with, you know what, you're a rational person. So even according to us, rational people are calling us racist.
We let them define the terms, but they do have the advantage of controlling the mainstream media and the.
We give the mainstream media credit. If it weren't for us, the mainstream media could not even pretend to be objective. Why is George Stephanopoulos moderating a Republican debate? They have to have. We are complicit in the perception that these people are objective. We don't have to buy into it. Republicans don't appear on Chris Matthews because Republicans know who Chris Matthews is, and they don't pretend that he's going to be somebody who's above the fray and objective. But when it comes to George Stephanopoulos, he calls them like slobbering dogs who run to the door. If we're going to appear on mainstream media shows, there must be one purpose and one purpose only, to destroy them. That is the only reason that you appear on a mainstream media left show. You don't go there to give them credibility as though they are objective observers of news events.
We're talking with Ben Shapiro. He's editor-at-large, Breitbart.com.
Trying to get an opinion out of him.
His
tough
book
work.
is called Bullies, How the Left's Culture of Fear and Intimidation Silences Americans, published by Threshold Editions. It's just recently out. You know, really, Ben, if anybody wants to know how we should respond, they really just need to listen to this interview, because you're telling us don't compromise, don't back down, but take the fight right to them.
Exactly. They're arguing character, and we're arguing policy. Whoever argues character wins. The only way to stop them from arguing character is to argue character right back at them, because by arguing character, they're doing something immoral. They're doing something wrong. They're breaching the fundamental basis for deliberative democracy in this country. And unless we start arguing character, we are never going to get back to the kinds of discussions we ought to be having, discussions about policy.
Ben, what did you make of the testimony that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton gave on the Benghazi before the Congress? Because I think this was a case in point that Republicans, they didn't want to be viewed as being, anti-woman and,
Beating up on the
beating up on Hillary Clinton. She's
very popular.
Yeah, and she's very popular, and yet we have a situation where 4 Americans died in a terrorist attack at a diplomatic office there on a foreign soil. The ambassador was not protected and woefully undersecured, and it was the responsibility of Secretary Clinton's office. She's the Secretary of State. She oversees our diplomats, and she got away with basically not answering. She did answer some questions, I would agree, but basically the bottom line is she by her statements that basically I wasn't in the loop. I'm not really responsible. But then she would turn around and say, I take responsibility for what happened. So was that an example maybe of Republicans and or the media being fearful of the
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was Republicans running for the hills. All credit to Rand Paul, who came out and said, look, if you'd been Secretary of State and our president, I would have fired you immediately. He's exactly right. And that's the perspective that we should be taking. When she came out and she said, what difference does it make? First of all, these false displays of righteous indignation on the part of the left are pathetic.
Yes, exactly.
And we should be labeling them exactly what they are. It's an attempt to avoid the question. When she essentially starts shouting, how dare you, what difference does it make? The answer is, you know what difference it makes, Senator? It makes or Secretary? The difference that it makes is that 4 Americans are dead, and it matters why that happened. And if she doesn't understand the fundamental difference between being killed because of a spontaneous assault over a YouTube video and a planned terrorist attack that had been warned about 29 times, then she shouldn't be Secretary of State. And if we're not willing to take the fight to them, we shouldn't be on Capitol Hill in the first place. It was pathetic to watch all of our guys up there talk about her wonderful service to the country. What wonderful service to the country? Name one country that's freer now than it was when she took office that wasn't started like Burma under the Bush administration. You can't name one because her tenure has been pathetic, because she is the emissary of an ideology that is not pro-freedom. She's the emissary of a multicultural ideology that believes that our main job in the world is to pat people on the head and avoid hurt feelings. The Arab Spring has been a full-out disaster, and she is sitting there, getting ready for her 2016 run, and wearing her horrible one-color two-piece suits, and the Republicans are sitting there patting her and telling her what a great job she's done. I mean, it's pathetic. And then we wonder why we lose elections. Look at John McCain on immigration yesterday. He comes out yesterday and he says, here's our immigration plan, and the reason we're embracing it is because we're losing the Hispanic vote, and this is the same as Teddy Kennedy's plan. I mean, talk about just a lose-lose for Republicans. If you're going to come out on principle, talk about why this is in consonance with your principle. Talk about why the left wants a full-on amnesty, and take the fight to them. For the love of Pete, we have to be on offense all the time. I mean, this is patent. This is not about we're not interested in holding our ground. We're interested in holding them by the nose and kicking them in the butt.